Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Dom.
It's nice to see you.
You too.
An hour after our little sound check already, where we've already said hello.
Yeah, I was about to say long time no seen, but
Long
that's
time no see. Yeah. It's been at least an hour. Still, in that time, I've had dinner. I've had a bath. I'm gonna turn this volume down here on my
yeah. I think you have some delay there from one of your many devices.
many devices. There we go. That's gone quiet now. So, do you want to tell people what we're here for? You're the
Yes,
host. I see you as the host, Chris.
you see me as the host. I've been taunting you. I've been begging you to do this for a long time. I was about to say no, but we met each other. Was it? I was about to say 2 years ago now.
No,
Almost 1.5, maybe something like that.
I'm going to contradict you there. I'm going to say that
Was it last year?
we met in February 2020, but time seems to have undergone
That's true.
a real sort of morphing, and things have, we can't really, the things that would come round the same time, they're not there. So all of our markers have gone, I think.
Yeah.
And for this reason, we're kind of, we met in Denmark.
In Denmark, actually at the place almost where I am right now, at Charlie Scott's bar. But just back to what you asked is like, so we when we first met, we immediately started geeking out about all the New Orleans piano styles and the artist and all that stuff. And after a while, you have done a, incredible amount of live streams. I've done some, but now I thought it would be great to show the world the way we can geek out. I was about to say
yeah,
over this music that we both love, and
yes.
also maybe get to show people another side of it, not just to listen to it, but also to understand the people behind it, such as the guy we're going to discuss today, Mr. James Carroll Booker III, or James Booker, as many people just call him. So yeah, but to them, the people out there don't know who I am. My name is Chris Copen. Recently took that name. Before that, Christian Bundgaard. I'm 26. I'm trying to do a living to do this stuff we call New Orleans music, and that's the way we came across each other.
Yeah, I'm nearly twice Chris's age by a very small margin, very tiny margin. And we met when I came to join in the kind of winter jazz festival in Copenhagen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was out there playing a number of different concerts. And one of the most fun was at the famous Mojo Blues Bar in Copenhagen. And it was billed as a kind of piano battle. People always use the word battle because it's more fun. It feels like there's going to be blood. And I was playing with a fantastic piano player called Hans Knudsen, who's a beautiful soul and a wonderful piano player. And we were playing up together. And another name I knew was in the audience that day, Mr. Esben Just, who I had met before and talked about James Book with, and I knew was very big into the New Orleans piano sound. And we're playing away, and Esben's played a bit, and I'm playing with Hans. And I actually I don't think I saw you get onto the piano stool, Chris. But I was playing away, head down, we were in G major, I think. And it's like, this is a very specialized sort of left hand, and I suddenly started to hear it coming back at me. And someone was playing Booker, and they were playing it really well as well. And I sort of look up, and I'm like, you're not Hans, and you're not Esben, you're someone else, man. Who is this young man, opposite me, playing his ass off on this style? And so we met on the bandstand, and then we drank beer, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And I can add a little thing to that, because it's like, of course, I was interested in you and coming to see you and all this stuff, but I also was there because the two guys you just mentioned, Hans Knudsen and Esben Just, especially Hans is one of my big mentors and the people I've been, listening to since I was like maybe 20 years now or something like that. And Hans and I also did a record together some years ago now called Two Generation, doing kind of what we're doing here. There's a little bigger age gap
Yeah, we're a
between
little close.
Hans
All
and
right.
me. Yeah. But it was also just a kind of a documentary about, or kind of showing the world that this music is for all generations, and it's just lovable music. So
Yeah, in a world in which we're the amount of music we get to listen to in life never gets any smaller. It only ever grows, only ever accumulates. But of course, while we have whatever might be tickling the outer reaches of the charts, or the very latest trends, there are people who started journeys or put down styles generations ago, and there are kind of I suppose you'd call a lot of blues players and jazz players too kind of folk lorists in some way, in the sense that we aren't there to dismiss what was there before, but we're there to kind of work with it, and sometimes to uncover the styles of players who've come before us, so that they can be kept alive because those players are gone, and also because they should be kept alive, and because it's inspiring enough to be presenting them to the world. So I guess in that sense, we are brothers of a form of music and a form of piano playing, and because we could talk about anything
for hours.
yeah,
Like,
particularly we want to focus on this very remarkable man's life, right?
yeah. So the whole point about this piano talk that we started to go along with is that it's about taking one piano player at the time that we really enjoy, and that is the foundation for what we are doing. Like, these guys, we wouldn't be here without these guys in music. We probably play something else, but that this kind of music is because of them. And we're going to talk about this guy, like, as I kept saying, we have Professor Longhair, right? And then we have three guys after that who like really took the New Orleans piano playing to another level, and that was Alan Toussaint, James Booker, and Dr. John. But we're going to talk about I would say the most unique one of those three, because there was no person like Booker. Nobody, even now, like, we can all try to emulate him and do our small impressions of him, but nobody can never, let's just say it right now, nobody can never play like James Booker played his kind of New Orleans style. That's out of the way. We're going to do our stuff, try to show people, but it's just said now, and there's that's the kind of the way to go. But yeah, James Booker.
What I believe you're saying there, Chris, is you can't touch this. That's
no, exactly.
Booker's game. And what I'm going to also say is I'm looking over to Facebook, and I'm seeing a lot of friends and fans and people we know and love. They're all saying hello. So what we want to say is a very big, warm welcome to all of our watchers. This is Chris. And, if you know me, I'm Dom. And if you didn't know me before, I'm Dom. And because we're going to be chatting together, I'm going to look over here, but I will reply particularly when we get Nobody Does Booker from my friend Claire, a great piano player herself. When we get to a point where we kind of want questions to be put, then we'll watch out for those, I guess. Yeah. And then we can see if that's something that we want to bring into the discussion. I was going to say, when people learn to play blues and boogie, or if they learn to play jazz, they kind of start off and they do a very sort of general thing, don't they? They're like this kind of. And that's kind of, that could be fast, that could be slow. There's all kinds of ways in which we do it. And we often play it in C major. And as Chris just said, three players came after Professor Longhair. And Professor Longhair kind of changed everything at the end of the 1940s. He kind of, as we came out of the war, he just put something new on rhythm and blues. But out of those three players, one specialized mostly in songwriting and production more than piano playing. And that, of course, would be Alan Toussaint. A great piano player too, but that would have been the direction he went in. He gave the world a lot of recorded New Orleans funk. Dr.
Yeah.
John was definitely known as a protagonist of the piano, and you know, a very successful you know, musical artist and piano stylist. But James Booker, we're both going to have a lot to say about this, but he played in every key. He played, he would fuse together a completely authentic piece of Rachmaninoff with a popular movie song of the day. He famously fused one of the Rachmaninoff preludes with A Taste of Honey, you know, and it's kind of like, yeah, as you said before, Chris, there was absolutely nobody like him that took this kind of approach to music making, and at the same time remained an authentic New Orleans gospel rhythm and blues piano player. But it will confound some of the purists who just, they'll be overwhelmed by the amount of information, I suppose, you know, that's in James Booker's style.
Yeah, he's not for everybody in that sense. With, you know, he had a really intense style for some of his music. He knew when to play with 100 miles an hour and with 50 miles an hour. Like, he knew how to do it. But if you listen to some of his stuff, you need to be into that, because, you know, some of it also because he changed a lot of things. He's one of the few, in my opinion, New Orleans piano players who actually is the essence of New Orleans, you know, taking a little bit of this, a little bit of that, all putting it together in this gumbo of piano playing that he's doing. Because even Dr. John, who is one of my biggest idols, and you know, one of the piano players I look up to a lot, even he has his own, you know, segment. He didn't do stride that much. He didn't do, you know, all that stuff. But Booker did it all in a, you know, in an amazing way. And to add to your story a little bit, if you like Dr. John, you can't, you know, get around Booker, because Booker used to be the piano player for Dr. John when Dr. John used to play guitar before he became a piano player. And so Booker was Mac Rebenek's, you know, influence. So we need to start here somehow, you know.
I think that that one way or another, one, if not both of us, have got to play something to let the wider audience really get it.
But maybe I should ask you this question then, Dom. When did you came across Booker the first time, and what like number, what tune, did you first like? Oh, what is this? You know,
I had been reading Mac Rebenek, Dr. John's book, Under the Hoodoo Moon, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it's a great book. And I was on the road with Errol Linton, who's a British blues artist. And we were in the van. I don't think it was very glamorous. It was probably a transit van, cold, whatever, you know. And I was sitting in the back and reading this book. Well, I'd been reading it at that time. Actually, I don't know if I was reading the book at the time, but Errol is a great musicologist. He had a cassette, and he was actually playing it in the van, and he was going to give it to me afterwards. I can't remember who was on one side. It might have been a compilation, might have been Willie Maben. Whatever it was, I have lost the cassette. Chris, you don't even know what a cassette is, of course, but we'll explain this to you afterwards, you know, what a cassette tape is. And I'd only heard about James Booker at this time, and then I heard him. And the first thing I hear is this. A Chopin waltz. Yeah? And I didn't know what I was listening to. It's like that, in a scrappy kind of way. That's me playing it straight. That's as and I started listening, and then he sort of takes it in all these gospel directions. He starts the bit that would normally be suddenly becomes like notes in. He's going like that. It's straight out of the gospel, you know. And I'm like, what is this, you know? And then he continues to play the rest of the Minute Waltz with this kind of gospel influence throughout. He takes it out at what we call one in the bar, where instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, you're literally counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, because you can't fit the other counts in. It's so fast. And he's literally going like that. And it's like, and it's completely accurate, which is why I didn't dare try and finish it at that speed, because I couldn't. And then he goes into the second song and he starts to sing. And what I was listening to, without knowing it, was the Junko Partner album of James Booker, which is his, well, there were 2 really big studio albums. And on this, he starts to sing. And the minute I heard him start to sing, I was like, who is this guy? You know, really, what is, you know, he sounds kind of, you know, I love his singing voice, but it comes at you differently because it's kind of screechy. It's also, it's incredibly, like, it's the real thing. It's like when he sings gospel, you know, when he sings true, Chris, you know, and he's just there. He's got, you know, that nasal thing. But when he starts to sing the song Good Night, Irene, and he starts cackling about the fact that he starts talking over the intro. And I'll give you a little demonstration of what's going on here.
Yeah.
We're still in D flat major. And if people play the Lead Belly classic, Good Night, Irene, it's a kind of blues waltz. It's very folky. It's like, you know, it's like, last night I was dreaming, I settled down. It's, you know, the famous refrain, good Irene, good night. And it's really beautiful and evocative. But sticking note, on this version, he gives it a Booker treatment. So I can give you a perfect example of what this extraordinary musician would do to something that would previously have sounded like this. And the sequence is very simple, like this chord, very simple chords. And Booker takes it like this and starts to talk over it. He goes, while he's playing this, he starts to talk. He starts going, this song written by a man named Leadbelly. And the minute he says his name is Leadbelly, he cracks himself up and starts to laugh and cackle his head off on a studio recording, not a live recording, but one that they kept and they put out. And he just goes, you know, a man named Leadbelly. And he just cracks up. And then talks about how Leadbelly and Booker both, so he's talking about himself in the third person, had the pleasure of partying on the Ponderosa in the state penitentiary of Angola prison, because Booker was a bad boy and was in jail, was busted for that, you know, most tragic of reasons that, you know, usually people who are black more than white get busted for, which is possession of drugs, you know. And he did time for possession. I don't think for anything else, you know. I don't think so. But I'll play you around 1 or 2 choruses of
do that.
Irene in the style of James Booker for everyone to enjoy. Here we go. I said late last Saturday, I got married right now. Took me and my wife, we settled down. Took me and my wife, we are partying, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna take a little walk downtown. Now I'm gonna say Irene, good night. Gonna see you in my dreams. Says sometimes I live in a country right now. Sometimes I live way downtown. Sometimes I drink with notion to jump into the river and just drown. And I'm gonna say I read at night. I read good night. Good night, I read. Good night, I read. I go to see you, I go to see you. In my dreams. Gonna jump in the river. Just drown, wow, wow.
Yeah, man.
Speaking mic was up, I turned it down.
There's a little bit of a sort of underwatery sound that I'm afraid with the piano.
Yes, it sounds like it's kind of in a, I would say, barrel a little bit.
There's very little I can do about that unless
Yeah.
very little I can do about that. Unless we take out the sound card and just use sound straight into the computer.
Yeah, or maybe if Chris does something now, I can check the settings on our computer.
We could try that. But let's just talk about that for a second. You know, we'll fix the sound. I'll put my glasses on so I can see what's going on. Otherwise, I'm just like this. That was, you know, that was my first introduction to the sound of James Booker, and the record then moves on from that into fast-paced kind of half ragtime music.
Yeah.
And then it moves into like, and then he plays ballads like "Rain or Shine," I think, and Gonzo's. But I can't actually remember.
No, but I think, as I remember, it was his first album, solo album, Jungle Partner, right?
It's the first time he was taken seriously and given.
Yeah, and it was. I read this story or heard the story that he was out in LA during a studio session, and he was a pain in the ass. He was a pain in the ass to all the other musicians because Booker had his way of life and his, you know, demons, but he got convinced after some time. He went back to New Orleans to do a solo album because the producer of the album in LA was so amazed by him, and he had one condition, and that was if he had to go in and do this, you know, this album, there needed to be a candelabra on the piano. And the studio guy, asked why, because then Booker said, because I'm the Black Liberace. And I think, you know, that says everything about that guy.
Yeah. It's sort of, you know, he's an outsider, right, Chris?
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I look at him. You know, he's sort of, he kind of knew he was like untouchable, I guess. You know what I mean? You know, how does a genius really know? But he would have seen all the comers at the piano, and then he would have been like, excuse me, you know, but we'll get onto this as we talk about him, I'm sure, but he only had one eye. You know, he could only see through one eye. And I think he lived a kind of, he identified with fantasy and larger than life kind of ways of looking at the world.
I think so too.
His version of Goodnight Irene, I was wondering what might be an introduction from you, Chris, to something about the style of James Booker.
Well, for me, actually, for a long time, like I got hooked to New Orleans and the piano style from there from really early on, but I can't like remember like clearly when I first came across Booker. But when I think back, I remember when I got what you call it, a confirmation, at the age of 15. Yeah, at the age of 15.
No. Okay, yeah.
My mom and dad gave me a lesson at Espen's place when I was 15 years old. And I remember he had this big poster of this guy with a big afro and an eye patch with a star on it. And I remember that like clearly, and like the name, but a few years later when I really got to New Orleans at the age of, I think it was in 2011 or something like that, I went there for the first time at the age of, I think, 16 at that point.
Youngster getting over there, yeah.
Yeah, I really, I saw him all over and I started checking it out. But I think my first tune that I really got in was the Jungle Partner, because I've heard the Dr. John version from the Gumbo album a lot, but it's kind of difficult to figure out the left hand to play it solo. So I started listening to it, and I couldn't figure out Booker's thing in the beginning. So I tried to emulate it by doing a kind of a long hair left hand, but with the 10th in there, which is a kind of good Booker thing. So I started, the doing it from long hair,
Yeah.
So that I just slowed that one down
that.
and started doing like. Down the road, down the road, down the road, came a jock, old pipe, no. Thought he was loaded, loaded as can be. He was knocked down, loaded, and he wobbled all over the street. I sing a 6 month, that ain't no sentence. For that 1 year, no, that ain't no time. I got boys up in Angola, serving 9 to 99. So I took it from there, and then I had a lesson with Josh Paxton 4 years ago, one of the number one guys on James Booker. He's the one who transcribed the whole thing. And he said, he liked the left hand, because it's a more like a second line feeling than what Booker does. But then he showed me the whole, and I started, because I always thought, because both you and I are not the guys with the biggest piano hands. So I thought, Booker, he always I was trying to get the 10th and all those stuff. But a lot of Booker actually did was also these small hand bass things. And after that lesson, I need to go home and really rethink my whole Booker situation, because I actually gave up on Booker for a long time, because I was like, I'm never going to be able to do any of his stuff, because, he was a small guy. He was not a big guy, but he apparently had, huge hands.
Yeah, so if you look at the video of him, he does have those long.
I might actually, because I have a little picture of him here. Yeah, if you look at this.
That's it. Yeah. Mystical pose that he's taken on board for that particular photo shoot.
Yeah. So but Jungle Partner was my kind of, way into him, and that sounded weird, but you know, but it's also what he called his theme tune in
Theme
many
tune.
ways.
His
You
theme tune.
know,
As I'm hearing you playing it, I'm hearing the kind of left hand that to me sounds closer to the kind of Booker left hand that he uses on Make a Better World. That kind of like
yeah,
Huey Smith, you know. Oops. If I can play accurately. So with the boom, 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 boom.
exactly.
He does have in Junko Partner, but that's got more of the sort of boom.
Yeah, it has the second line
Very
feel,
second
you know.
line, very New Orleans. But Junko Partner, yeah, Junko Partner it has this very different kind of well, I get very romantic about James Booker. I see it as this like mystical, you know, like because it sounds, it's like he puts a sort of it's got something of the Delta blues inside it.
Yeah,
When he plays that kind of left hand, and it's in the G and it's raw, you know, it's, you know, almost like a bit of John Lee Hooker or something going on in that left hand, even though it's sophisticated at the same time. But do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but I also think,
Fifths, you know.
but he did that a lot, you know, as you also said, you know, in some versions of the Make a Better World, or in How Do You Feel, you know, it has this like really intense hardcore, you know, left hand that I think what I really came across with Booker was that compared to all the other New Orleans players, they always, you know, they use two hands for everything. Like long hair, you know, or like, but here you have a guy like Booker who start, you know, to use the left hand as a whole thing to,
My camera
you know,
went a bit
both
bad,
be,
but did you play that all with one hand, Chris?
yeah. So he does a really nice version of when,
it's because I know Booker's style, so you can put all that into one. It's amazing though. One
yeah.
hand.
So what he did, like I heard a nice version of When the Saints. I found like a, you know, Dutchy website kind of, you know, recording of him, and he has this like really nice thing where it goes like, and for me that's just like so amazing because it takes the piano playing to a whole nother level, that you get a free right hand to actually do. Sometimes Booker had a busier left hand than he had a right hand, you know,
Sure.
because he wouldn't mind doing stuff like, and to, I think, you know, maybe it's because I'm left-handed like writing, so I was like, oh, you know, this is actually nice, this is a nice way of playing a left hand on the piano. I don't know, maybe.
What I find, I mean, what I'm also picking up on, and you know, those of us who know James Booker's repertoire, we know that he played anything, man. You know, he played all kinds. He played Beatles songs. He played Nancy Sinatra. You know, he does a version of King of the Road. He does,
Yeah.
you know, does he do a version of Something in the Way She Moves? I think I might have heard that.
I think he did all, you know, he did everything.
A lot of people, luckily, people realized that this guy was unusual, and you know, a lot of people did take tape recorders to where he was playing, and they immortalized him. Because for those who don't know the life of James Booker, He only made it to 43, folks. He lived from 1939 until 1983.
I think he died a month before he actually should have turned 44 or something
before he
like
would have
that.
made 44, which is, of course, the good blues age, the 44 blues, you know. The 44s. But
Exactly.
he was a drinker, and he was a user. He took a lot of cocaine, and he had probably had a heroin habit. But it's pretty much the established wisdom about his life. He didn't look after himself, and he lived on the edge, and he was always high and always on substances. So he died young. But he would take a song like something really well known, like the Saints, and you have this sense when he plays some of these songs that he goes fast. He plays them fast. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'll take like this one. This tune. The one, Robbie Williams and Booker. He kind of, he loves the tune, but he injects it with this in bizarre tempo. It's like.
But he actually does the same to even a long hair tune. Like we all know Tibetina, like something like that. But Booker would do it. But Booker would do it like kind of like the Fat Man. And he would just pump it up. But I kind of think sometimes it's because he got bored.
Yeah, I feel it's workings of a fast mind.
Yeah, because he like the things he would do. Like I just came across this tune. I'm not gonna sing the first part of it because this is 2021 now. But the song called "60 Minute Man."
60 Minute Man. Yeah.
Yeah,
also
but
60-second Man. In some
yeah, but he had the whole thing. Like, started out slowly, all fancy, and then start going, and just pump and pump and pump until he want to go out. And I think that's incredible because a lot of piano music, like sometimes with boogie woogie and stuff, of course you start with all the slow stuff, but once you get there it's kind of like a straight line. But Booker would go up and down because he had this, I think he got bored by his own playing a lot. He got bored listening to himself, so he would be like, oh. And also, like in this tune, he goes like from singing 60 Minutes Man to suddenly go like, you talk too much, you worry me to death. Well, you talk too much, you worry my bed. Well, you talk too much. You talk about the people you don't even know. You talk about the people wherever you go. Well, you talk too much, Lord, you talk too much. And then in a little bit, he would go down and get, And to come up with an outro like that in a blues piano playing New Orleans kind of stuff is, I'm bored. Like, now I've been doing all the classical, you know, but and
Yeah.
that for me just shows that, okay, there's more to it. There's, like, you can take this kind of playing in any direction.
Yeah, I would say, like, you use the word bored, and I probably would suggest a different word than bored, and say that he was bored of the tune being, or being just the song that it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
When I say bored, is in a good way. Is
I
in,
know what
like,
you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's
because
like,
that was also when I came across Booker the first time. What I really got relieved with him was that there's a new level to play blues piano and boogie woogie and New Orleans piano, because he actually found a way of making it tasty, to bring in other stuff, you know, to bend the rules, to think differently without kind of, you know, go away and be too experimental. You know, it was still within the boundaries of the genre, you know.
he was a populist kind of player,
Yeah.
whatever way you look at it, because his great hero, is Liberace. Now, what a contradiction. You've got Kelly. How dare you, Kelly? I see that comment about my hair. It's good, isn't it? It's like Gene Wilder. It's like this is what happens to me when I get distracted. I now can't remember what I was trying to say. Now, he loved Liberace, whose bottom line was to communicate with people.
Yeah.
And I really believe that Booker operated on a very sincere level, that he saw the gift that he had as serving a purpose to entertain and bring emotional change to people. And in some ways, he was considerably less uptight, than a, this is the blues, this is how it is, this is jazz, and I'm going to play, and these are all genres we know and love, but Booker did something quite different with it. I always remember thinking Booker didn't really know jazz harmony, and then he plays Angel Eyes on the jazz standard Angel Eyes on the album Classified, and he's using all the kind of like, all this kind of jazz altered, he had it, but he just didn't. He only chose to use it when it informed the music and gave it. It had an artistic intent. But the long endings that you're playing there as well, I almost feel like he would be in a song and he could imagine how to make that song go to another level, if you like. It's a rhythm and blues song. It would normally finish with ba da 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 ga da ga da ba da boom. But he'd be like, no, it needs an extended, an extended play out, and it needs to go further.
Yeah, and I think it's about, he was a master of leaving his audience curious. Like, you never knew where it would go. Like, I love the old stuff. I love Otis Spann. I love, Memphis Slim and Pete Ammons and all that, Albert Ammons and all that stuff. But after a couple of tunes, you're like, okay, this is the scenery. This is how it's set up. This is how it is.
Yeah.
But never with Booker. I still, like, I have a huge amount of, like, tape recordings with him, like, that people have recorded, kind of off the hook, and not, maybe I shouldn't say it here on the big internet, deep internet here. But all the, like, this, and I think that was what I fascinated about him. Like, I get people want to, like, learn how to play his tunes exactly. But for me, that's sometimes a exception of, like, who he was, because he never played the same thing exactly. He never, and I think to start thinking like him is to be free and be brave enough to take something that we know and, take it somewhere else in the middle of a tune. Do something completely out of this, context, but within the same language. Not go crazy and reharmonize and all that. No, but change the rhythms once in a while. Be free to do that stuff, and that's something he could.
Yeah, I mean that goes to any interpretation that we put on, old classic material.
When that is said, could you? Because I also think the people out there probably would like to hear a whole tune or something like that at one point, and not just. I know I'm still learning, but I know you can do it. It's fair enough to say no, but could you play? Could you do that?
This is a song. Yes, this
Pixie.
is a song that appears on that album of James Booker's, the one called Junkie Partner, and he called it Pixie. And I don't know anything about it. But when I present this song to people, a James Booker composition, I always kind of talk about ragtime music a little bit. You can hear it's something about the jerkiness of the rhythms. Jazz music is a little different in the softness of its rhythm, whereas ragtime is like and this is full of that stuff. So yeah, I'll play you a little bit. I don't play, just as Chris has said, I remember studying this tune and learning it, because this is what we do. We listen back and we learn. And I had help from Josh Paxton's book again. Josh, who we both know, he was the guy that really dug in and listened back and notated what James Booker had been doing, so that we can build on his amazing knowledge. This is Pixie, done my way, but also Booker's way, as much as I can.
And just before we play it, Dom, I would like to just say, we don't say it much, but if you like to support the music, there's links in the Facebook, but I'm also going to pull it up on the screen while Dom is playing.
Yeah, we should absolutely say that. Look out for live musicians and what they do. It's worth saying. This is Pixie by James Carroll Booker III.
Yeah.
It's a little flavor of
Thanks.
how James Booker's Pixie would have gone. I play it more manically than Booker did, actually. The thing about Booker is he plays something as frantic as that, but he actually he has it so beautifully under control when he does it as well. And I know I go manic with it. I get excited and pull his extra stuff in.
But that's your version, and as
That's
we
my
said,
version.
like, there's no reason to try to do his stuff, you know.
Yeah. I'm influenced, by the great man.
Yeah.
There's so many things we can. There's a lot to talk about. I find like I find where he came from. The fact that Chris and I were talking about this earlier, that we both feel that he owes a bigger debt to players like Jelly Roll Morton than may be particularly sort of obvious. He would always talk about loving Ray Charles, which is really obvious as well. Ray Charles, Smiley Lewis, all these kind of guys. But you really hear something of the kind of slightly arrogant kind of it's just like the piano player is king, with James Booker, and he knew it. You know what I mean, Chris?
Yeah, for me, it's like, I think Booker knew, and I also heard Dr. John say this in an interview, that Booker, he could play like anybody else. He could play like Ray Charles. He could, do it so beautifully.
He plays for Fats Domino on some of his recordings.
Yeah, if you dare to look in the in the credits, it's actually not Fats, it's
not
Booker. Sometimes it's also 2 Cent, but mostly it was Booker. He also did it for Huey Lewis, or Huey Piano Smith. But nobody could do what he did, and I think he knew it in a way. I think he knew he was untouchable at that moment, and as you said, I don't think, like, also because few piano players, like, we have the same 88 keys, and this piano has been around for over 400 years or something like that, and few people gets to invent something. Jelly Roll did it, and Booker did it. And
in Booker's case, there's an awful lot you could say, and but it's probably, is it fair to say, do we think, that it's probably in the realms of the left hand that Booker made the biggest difference?
I will say so, because I was sitting around, and this just shows that if Booker didn't exist, I would not be able, because I didn't come from a classical background. I've never played classical music. But the closest thing I ever got to that, or to dive into that world, was Booker.
Mm-hmm.
But he used a left hand that is so dominant and takes place, that I was sitting doing figuring out how to play, like, he has his version of St. Louis Blues that has this dominant left hand as well. But I was thinking, like, how can I go into his mindset? So I said, Booker would take all kind of Spanish, Latin influences and compared it with the blues. So I was like, how to play St. Louis Blues could be. And that is something I like. To do this in a blues is only something you can get from a guy like Booker, because old school stuff, it would be something like that maybe, but to dare to go that way is just like, that's his mindset. But it is in the left hand, of course, that he was king. He had a left hand like no other.
Like you say, no one would have imagined doing the moves that he does. And those who know Booker's music, you talk about things like Papa Was a Rascal, you talk about Come On In My House.
But Papa Was a Rascal is also a good show of it, because he actually starts out really, really simple in that song with his left hand. and that's like, this is just some small, from the song, but he has like 4 or 5 different left hands in that whole tune. But the feeling of the song is the same all the way through.
It's like some kind of it's like this machine, moving forward. It's very very driving, very very powerful. My favorite, we could talk about Booker left hands, but like one of the Booker's left hands that always amazed me, and I still don't think I'm playing it right, but he plays a song that he calls One Hell of a Nerve.
Oh yeah.
And he ends up playing all this with one hand. He goes going. Should practice it first. So he's got. That's a melody that's taking place in the very bottom, and then he's accompanying it with a sort of but all with one hand, and then he solos on the top of it. Kind of goes. Nobody I can think of ever in the world of piano playing, would ever have thought of putting a melody like that, driving his left hand whilst he solos in the right hand, and then sing. I mean, actually, we should really talk about him mostly as a player, because some of his lyrics are quite amusing. They're the lyrics of alienation and alienation and paranoia sometimes, but in a kind of playful way. He was gay. He was a drug user.
Schizophrenic.
Society's favorite. In
you could take it like in the one I just played, right? He sings. I'm not. It's the way he sings is way too high for me. But there's something like, there's a sweet white woman down in Savannah, GA. She made love to my daddy in front of the KKK. He made love to my daddy in front of the KKK. And then she went on, and then my papa went to Boston and took a gangster scout. She stole away with my papa from old Italian Sarah. She stole away with my papa from old Italian Sarah. I was a young boy, about the age of 9. I found a sweet Russian woman and made her mine. I found a sweet Russian woman and made her mine.
We think that is, and it's been largely interpreted as when he was 9, he was hit by an ambulance and medical morphine, which then gave him the habit that he lived with.
Exactly. But in the other, like, he had some really, mellow and dark lyrics, but and when he played that, he played it with all his heart. Like you could hear it, you could hear the sorrow, you could hear the pain. Like when he plays Black Knight, like that intense is way bigger than when you hear the original by Charles Brown. It's like
I think he does that in as well. His version of St. James Infirmary as well.
Exactly.
And throw that lyric away so often, just like she was so gold, and Booker's like, man, it's just, if you haven't heard Booker's version, he changes key just before he goes into the vocal, which is so clever. Again, it's like, it's sort of musical theater kind of sensibilities, kind of intelligence that you just don't get in blues repertoire.
But that's also, on the other hand, he played all this dramatic stuff, and then suddenly you have make a better world, and he's joyful. He's like, oh man, everything is good. And there's not one song between, it's just straight after each other, and it's like it's a new act in another scene, like in a theater. It's like he can go from the love scene to the death, scene right away without people being, it's just amazing. He had that gear to kind of, okay, I'm gonna take it to another place now.
I wanted to the best black gay junkie one-eyed piano genius from my friend John, who's John Guthrie's Twitter handle is the Thames Maharaja. I think at some point we want to see if we get any questions from our watchers and see if anyone wants to ask.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, how about Booker playing slow, Chris? We've talked a lot about his. Well, we've touched on his funk, and there is a lot of areas. There's the stride funk idea actually. Before we actually mention playing slowly, which I find particularly fascinating, and that's like my example for this would be the song "Put Out the Light."
Oh yeah, do that one.
In this one, well, I'm going to stop and explain. I'll finish playing it. So this is another Booker in D flat major. He liked this key, and it's
D flat and E flat.
It's an E flat, and for piano players, that has a lot to do with getting around the keyboard. There's so much expression in D flat, and in E flat. Those keys are kind of easier in some ways to play than C when it comes to stride material. This is a bit of Booker's Put Out the Light. Talk about it. To me, I mean, first of all, the composition of that is so extraordinary.
Yeah,
it's like it's got its own poetry to it. It sounds like to me, it always sounds like something from 1820, or 1830, or something during the conquest, or later in the 1900s, conquering the west of America, and like.
Just got Joplin-ish,
It sounds modern, and it sounds like a dream of a large open space. But if that was played in a stride style, it would be something like it's beginning to sound like Jelly Roll Morton in some kind of way there, yeah? It's, especially if you put a big 4 on it, and you kind of went, and sort of all that kind of stuff. But Booker is playing music like this in the 1970s, when, we've had disco, we've had Stevie Wonder, he's not unaware of this stuff. He was a very funky musician, very, very switched on. And he's putting that kind of, into a kind of thing that sounds like it's from the mid-19th century, which is before Jelly Roll Morton even played. And it's kind of, instead of, it's like... Now let's talk about him going slow.
Well, for me, it's like the first, like, for me, I like one of the greatest slow blues piano players for me is Charles Brown. As for many people, I know a lot of people who think he's like, oh, he's so boring with the deep voice and his like long hands, but all that, with the tens,
Chris.
and then I hear Booker take his approach, Charles Brown's approach, but with a little more, you have the whole. And what I like about Booker is that normally slow blues would be like, have this same kind of tempo in the piano playing until the piano gets to the solo. He gets thrown a solo, but Booker, he would be like. He would, attack it, and suddenly it would be like, oh, yeah, the audience is not dead. I think he was like trying to, now people are getting tired.
I think he's the king of drama and emotion when it comes.
Yeah, exactly.
He has, he was a man that played Chopin, nocturnes, and any Chopin, and I think that he in the world of classical music, you get those dynamic ranges,
yeah,
and you get that build up, and then that you've got sort of, I mean, you do get this in blues style as well. You get that final gear, the last gear, but you certainly get that sense of drama in classical music where fortissimo, triple fortissimo, and then pianissimo, and the light and shade that goes with it. I just noticed in the chat that my friend, I know that it's Tim talking through his wife's account. Tim Penn, who's a wonderful British piano player, singer, and writer of music too. And he's seen Booker play, I know. And he goes, one of the best gospel players I ever heard, And that kind of gospel feeling, is a Booker thing. He had the church as well, right? Yeah. And when he sings, oh my God, from a piano playing point of view, there's the two things that he does on his slow material. One is the approach from underneath. That like. So yeah, the chord swipes up. And this kind of amazing, he rises, he kind of sweeps his way through the third. And what we mean by the third to non-piano players is very simple. Here is the root. La, 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 la. It's not the third, it's what we call the 10th actually, because the nearest third is here. Yeah. La, and then we go way up there, and through mathematics that becomes a 10th. And what he'll do to really draw emphasis to it, and he'll do it throughout whole solos. He'll sit there going, we'll do it again here.
But it also shows,
you hear it. You hear that inner voice coming out.
Yeah, but it also shows once again what we've been talking about is he let the left hand get
So
its part, because normally in blues piano the left hand is just,
Oh.
either going that or something like that. But with Booker, you could be like it's not the right hand who's in focus here. It's actually the left hand. He gets that, he lets it walk like,
yeah, that's the
and
example for you, Chris. Check this one out from True,
oh
which
yeah,
I'm just going to play the intro for, just because I want to.
you're also gonna sing it.
You know what? I want to do it, but he does it. I do it in C, so I'd go. Is it? Yeah. He goes. Yeah, I'm true. But Booker does it up here. Yeah, I'm true. You know I'm creep, but I'm not going to do all that right now. But I'm going to show you what he does with the left hand. He goes, at that point in the song, he goes, what's he do? Yeah. So it's like, there's so much movement in his left hand. And then he go, and then he's doing a little driving it along,
Yeah.
And then you hear that sound again. He rests on the minor third and then brings it up. But I would like to see that whole song, but I'm not ready. I'm true. I'm true. You know I'm crazy over you. No one else will do. You know you just don't love me. Say I had it all planned just for you. You broke my plans in two. You know you just don't love me. And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That is like the Booker ballad for me. Yeah,
Exactly.
And he hits chords like this,
The.
This, it's so like Burt Bacharach. It's pretty,
No. I said he knew it all. Like as we talked about earlier, he knew how to
turned
Put
on
it in there.
the flavor that was needed. That song is by Paul Gayton. Did you ever hear the original, Chris?
No, actually, no. I have to go listen to it.
And it's really pretty. It's like it's kind of got this elegance. It's kind of like I'm true, you know I'm crazy over you. And it's nice, it's a nice version. But then Booker, he pulls the tempo back again, and he's like, I'm true, and he's like, it means more, when he sings it. It means, like you said about Black Knight. When Booker does it, it means more than when the original guy wrote it. He's found something else in it,
Exactly. But let's just say cheers for a while.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know if you're drinking booze. How you got on the beer?
Yeah, well, I have to be honest. It's non-alcohol.
All right. As your older brother here, Chris, first business.
I know, but the Christmas and they're staying at home.
No,
I know, but it's for the people who are said to are going to drink in January. That right. Like I'm not going to come home like I saw it live. You drank, But I think I would just do a little tune here to lighten the mood in these dark times. We've been talking about it a lot, just to play "Make a Better World."
Yeah, man. Hey, Chris, if you play to a certain point, we don't play so well together, but you could stop. I could take over. You could go back. We could we could try a tag.
We can try.
All right, start. I'll see you right there.
What we know is built on skills, but that only don't count. Without the sweats and toils of mine, it wouldn't be worth a dime. We got to live and give, share and care, put some love in the air. When your people's down, pick them up. No one should live in despair. Everybody, let's sing, sing, sing. Everybody, let's sing. Let freedom ring. Let's all pitch in now, do our thing. Make a better world to live in. Everybody, let's sing. Everybody, let's sing. Let's all pitch in now, do our thing. Make a better world to live in. Come on.
I said society have no priority. We're all one part of a whole. Whenever people shout, got to hear them out, 'cause everybody is a beautiful soul. We gotta give and live, care and share, really put some love in the air. You're never down, you got to pick him up. Nobody should live in despair. Everybody, let's sing, sing, sing. Everybody, let's sing, let freedom ring. We got to all pitch in, we got to do our thing. Make a better world of never end. Hey, you go, Christian.
We got to pull together, hand in hand. We really gotta do our best. And wouldn't it be a pleasant sight to see a world full of happiness?
Yes.
Everybody let's sing, sing, sing. Everybody let's sing.
Sweet rain.
Let's all pitch in to do our thing and make a better world to live in. Let's all pitch in, do our thing, make a better world to live in. One more time, let's all pitch in.
Do I think a better world to live in?
Yeah.
Jumping all over your tune there, Christian. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's fine. It's like it's funny to try. It's like because we're live with an hour difference here, but we're live together, and
We are live.
it's funny,
Let's have a look.
I really guess Booker would never do this. Like, he couldn't
Look,
imagine this,
About
even with all his CIA and conspiracy stuff. To play like this with a computer and another guy in another country, no.
Yeah, but I mean Booker, he who knows? I mean, one of the stories from there's so much you can say about James Booker. My friend Lily Keeber, I became friends with her because of the movie. She made the definitive film about James Booker, the Bayou Maharaja, which is the closest thing to uncovering his life story, and a great piece of work, documentary filmmaking, very entertaining. Look there, Chris has got the original DVD cover there. It's a fantastic movie, and it has a lot of footage of Booker, and it has Booker talking, and has Booker you can see Booker kind of drunk in one of them. He's definitely like after the gig, cigarette in hand, and sort of talking about why he's not paid as well as Sammy Davis Jr., not paid as well as Frank Sinatra. And he kind of goes on in these rants about the unfairness of the artist's life and, the guys who are popular and successful.
Yeah. But also, to be fair, like, he had a lot of demons. And one of the saddest things I've ever heard was the story that he went to Europe, and he had a lot of, especially in East Europe and Norway and, Eastern Europe at that point, East Berlin. He played a lot of gigs. He had a big audience. But when he came back to New Orleans, he was a nobody again. Yeah. And it's in the movie, they talk about he had played in Norway, and they had taped the whole thing, and he got the tape with him home and put it in his cassette. And when he played it to all his friends in New Orleans, the only thing he played was the audience, applauding him. He didn't listen to his own playing. He listened to the people applauding him. And I think he really, the guy he played with Ringo Starr. He played with Aretha Franklin. He played with everybody, but in New Orleans, he kind of was a nobody, for a good thing and a bad thing, I would say, because he had his habits, and he couldn't pull that off in other cities, but he could do that in New Orleans,
Well, I think looking back at James Booker's life, 40 years after he died, and the world knows the name Liberace. The world knows the name Harry Connick Jr. I'm trying to think, piano players. It's not so easy. There aren't so many really world famous, popular piano players. We know Oscar Peterson. We know great jazz.
I think we have a little technical issues here. I think we're at the point now where Facebook starts being a little, you've been streaming too long.
Oh, really? Oh, we might have to play their game and wrap it up.
We've also got spammed as well. But
who spammed us?
Oh, I've reported them, so it's okay.
Is it anything good? I mean, I might want it.
No, you don't want it.
It's nothing about like there's certain sunglasses as well that I'm quite keen on. That if they can, Anyway, I'm sorry. But I would just say, looking back 40 years after his death, he deserved better, right? That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
He got angry, but he knew what he was giving the world. But it's a classic artist story, not recognized fully in his own country or his own lifetime.
No. And I can only encourage people to either look up the DVD here. It's amazing. There's a lot of interviews with Dr. John, Harry Connick Jr., Alan Toussaint. But also there's a lot of interviews on YouTube from the first times he went to England, and like not the first time, but he visited the BBC and had a radio talk with somebody there. And because there's a lot of things we didn't come across, and there's a lot of things we haven't discussed. We probably could do a second, piano talk part 2. His name is Carroll Booker III, right? So we have 3, episodes to go. But yeah, so like listen to me. A lot of his, like, normally I would not do any commercial for Spotify. I'm not, but I would say this.
We know this.
But go, like, a lot of his stuff is on Spotify, and if you haven't checked him out, just shuffle play, just listen to it for a whole day, and you would never get tired, because you never know what to expect. Like, it's different from.
So I'm going to ask you, is it fair to ask you, Chris, for your one-time favorite Booker, or do you want a choice of 2 or 3?
Like tunes?
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on it right now. One of them, he did a version of a Dr. John tune from. I don't know if it's actually a Dr. John tune, but the tune Live.
Oh yeah, so good.
And I love that tune because there are so many political things in it, in the lyric, but
the way Alan Toussaint composition, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Alan Toussaint who wrote it for Dr. John's Right Place, Wrong Time record. But when he plays it, he has this thing again showing how his left hand works. He starts out something like. And the whole rhythm of his version, and the whole because the lyrics has this mother, just look at what they done. So the whole structure of the song is just so New Orleans with the syncopation, and that is one. And then of course True, True is just that song. But I would say you can't go wrong either with, Classified, or we haven't touched upon that one, but that is, the whole. Huh?
You play it more like Matt Rebennack. You're playing.
Yeah, but also.
That's like the book.
So I think for me, it's
it's funny.
It's difficult to put a full on like my favorite tune, because there's actually I would actually say, to be honest, maybe it's his biggest hit, his only hit, Gonzo, is so simple, and I think he was 21 at that point, and it's him playing the organ with a flute player, and I just think that's one of my favorite, in the way that he showed us so kind of arrogant that he can play something so simple, so groovy. It's like kind of a one-note song, and then he goes up and play Rachmaninoff and all that shit. Like, I think it showed him who he is, like that.
He was also Gonzo appears in a black and white movie as an evil drug dealer. A movie that Booker would have seen. And
the movie was called Gonzo.
Yeah, an old movie. And Booker loved the idea of this character Gonzo. So he appears in the song Gonzo, the only Billboard hit that Booker ever had with a band. And then he also writes a song called Gonzo's Blue Dream, which is like a slow, instrumental exploration. And the journalist Hunter S. Thompson loved Booker. I think I've got this story right. And the term gonzo journalism comes about because of James Booker. And in turn, the Muppets create the character Gonzo because of Hunter S. Thompson and this idea of Gonzo. So James Booker played a part as a stepping stone in allowing that term to come from this anti-drugs movie that was around, this drug dealer, to become used in, much more widely spread use. There's another thing I want to ask you, and we probably should wrap up fairly soon, but when you play your live left hand, I'm trying to think, I'm like, how do you do it?
So in the first one, I do, so like I have this thing. So that's the first part, right?
Yeah.
But then I go over and say, I do this interval.
C sharp. Like that.
I go like the fifth interval between B flat, like so B flat F.
Yeah.
And then C and F sharp, and then C sharp and G.
Yeah, the tritone.
And then you can get. Yeah, so it has this like. And then there's a. And then it goes over and do the. Yeah, exactly.
Because I was going to say, for favorites, it's the most insane bit of blues piano I've ever heard in my life. And if I had to choose like a slow one, True Is Something Else, if I could only hear one James Booker song for the rest of my life, just in terms of the pure energy it gives, the absolute defiance, and sort of fury, and like, it's a live version of Life, Wine Spodiodi, and It Should Have Been Me, Ray Charles song. He puts all together, and it's so fast. It's like sort of it's like. And it's stupidly fast, and he does this like, obviously I needed to work out more properly.
But that is like, I think for me,
his foot going as well.
Yeah, and it's that power. The power of his playing is just like, also with the whole, all that energy from that going. You can listen to it for hours.
Anyone listening to that who kind of goes, oh, Booker's very flowery, Booker's like, camp, and he's sort of all this kind of, he's all like old fashioned, but he could play such tough boogie if he wanted to, and so much good blues, and gospel. Amazing. Now I'm gonna leave the show in your hands. You decide where you go, because I feel like we've done a good hour and a half with everybody. We might have gone on.
Yeah, and we can keep going on, but I think I'm gonna leave this up on Facebook, and we're gonna leave it up on my YouTube as well. It's over there, and let's if comment on it if you didn't think you get got everything you wanted, then we'll do a second.
Do a second address.
And maybe we should actually try to get the transcriber of the all with us for one of them, Josh Paxton. But we also talked about if people like this kind of show that we did. It looks like it. It's been like 40 people on for an hour and a half. It's amazing. Thanks, guys, everybody out there.
Happy to join us. Yeah.
But as I said, if you really enjoyed this, we're gonna do some more. We can talk about Dr. John. We can talk about Alan Toussaint. We can talk about Jelly Roll. We can talk for hours and hours and hours. But I think it's time to wrap up for now, because otherwise this is gonna be a midnight session, and that's gonna be a long one.
Got the wine. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to add to that. It's been a joy to talk with you, Chris. It's really nice seeing you as well.
You too, Dom.
It's such good fun, and it's great to have everyone who's joining us. I've been looking over and seeing who's giving out money. Looks good.
No, don't worry.
No. I know. But apparently there's some. It's great to see. I've been looking over and seeing comments from people. We haven't specifically answered any questions.
They weren't so.
But
no,
we've been elucidating, and
I'm.
You kind of answered a lot of questions as you talked.
Little technical glitch.
We also have. DK for covering this with an article. It's been really, really good, and I hope to see you soon again, Dom. And let's do it, with some other guys, and maybe a second James Booker show.
You bet, man. From the UK.
Perfect.
Denmark. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone watching, and you take care, Chris, my friend.
Yeah. You too.
Take care, everybody.